Yeah, so interesting. So you got the point now, for example, the company wants to get a contractor that's more like in line nowadays, most of the companies. So how do you guys, I think you're going to be very specific, but like, how do you guys trying to source or like retain that talent that you guys know, like for the back of the head, like for example, oh, I need someone as a full stack software engineer, and then like, oh, and remember Lucas, he might know a thing or two. I could reach for him. Or you guys actually have like something place like your own database of candidates that you just keep that first, and then you go after the people you know. How do you guys like look? You guys like to source your candidates?
I think and it'll probably be the same across a number of recruitment agencies. I think naturally the biggest thing for a recruitment agency at the moment, I would say, is probably LinkedIn RPS, which is a service you pay for. It's LinkedIn, but
Mm-hmm.
it's for recruiters. So it's probably the biggest, that along with our database, which we've got a great database here, and we're using Salesforce. So we would kind of regularly be talking to candidates. I think it's important not to rest on your laurels if you're a little bit quiet in the industry. I think recruitment comes in waves. You're not always going to have loads of roles, and they're not always going to be the sexy roles as well. They're not always like you need to be able to make sure that you're constantly talking to the market. And look, people are busy. Not everyone's going to be open to having a chat with you, but it is good to make sure that look, we're using that database. We're kind of calling candidates. We're seeing how they're getting on in their current role. We're seeing look, H2 is coming about soon. Would you be open to a move then? And then kind of having what we would call like a pipeline of candidates then that we know might be open to a move. Because when a role comes in, you do want to move fast because it is competitive. This is a lot of insight into recruitment now, but you are naturally up against, if you're not filling the role, someone else is going to fill it, and obviously it's a very competitive industry as well. So I think making the most of your resources, be it the database, be it the LinkedIn as well. LinkedIn is obviously very good. I know candidates get slightly annoyed on LinkedIn. It's natural, and you can actually obviously say you can deny messages from recruiters, which is obviously a handy feature to have for you guys. But I think for recruiters, it's a really kind of important tool, and it's really important to make sure that you just always are chatting to people. And there's a lot of people out there that are quite chatty, and I might have 5-10 minutes to say, look, I'm not looking right now, but this is what I do. This is my experience. If a nice role comes around that has flexible working, this salary or this daily rate, give me a shout.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's important, is knowing who might be on the move rather than who's
Mm.
actually moving right now, and then you can kind of go to them as the role comes in.
This you guys think LinkedIn is annoying for you too?
For us, I would say annoying, but I would say I can imagine that you guys get a lot of messages day in and day out. So I can imagine that there could be a lot of messages coming through from recruiters. Like, I mean, I've spoken to developers, candidates that would say that their messages are swamped and they couldn't get back to me because there's just too many messages there, which is kind of more what I'm getting at. I think for us, I don't know if it's annoying stuff. I think it's a benefit to us.
Absolutely. And it's like, so the difference between normal LinkedIn and RPS, Lucas, is you probably know yourself. Do you know when an in-mail comes up? So the RPS license
Yes.
allows us to send messages when we're not connected with someone, and it would always come to the top of their inbox. Um, I know for some candidates that I've spoken to, they might get messages that just aren't applicable to them at all. It might be the salary is way off. It might be the locate. I don't know that it's stated in their LinkedIn profile. I don't want contracting or I don't want permanent, and then they're getting messages. So myself and Ryan, we'd be a lot more selective of our messaging. We would like take time to read through profiles and make sure that when we're messaging that it's appropriate to them. There's nothing more annoying, I'd say, like even from my side as well, when the I guess what's it called, Ryan, the spray and write approach where like you just
Right.
blanket message to people. It's I know that can get annoying. So that's how
It's
I would try to set myself aside from
Mm.
our competitors when I'm sending a message, that it's like, oh, I see you've worked in X company. This company is quite similar, or I'm seeing you're working with this tool, this technology. I'll always try to personalize as much as I can. But I do understand for candidates, it can be quite frustrating, especially if you're not looking for a role and recruiters are just constantly reaching out.
Yeah. I think the advice to kind of give, and not everyone has time to go through the LinkedIn profile, but to avoid getting messages maybe that you don't want. Like we come across some profiles on LinkedIn that are a dream, because you'll know not to message them because they'll almost say it in their bio. So when we're doing a search, we might search a technology and it might pop up on someone's profile. So basically whatever is in your profile will come up in a LinkedIn search for a recruiter. So what we would kind of say is keep it relevant to what you're actually doing at the moment, rather than having, if you did a bit of Python when you were in school, I don't know if that should be on your LinkedIn profile, because it probably isn't relevant. Now, obviously, when we go through it, we'll see Python's only mentioned back then, but sometimes profiles aren't up to date, and sometimes people don't list the technologies they're using in each role. So it can be hard sometimes, and if your profile isn't up to date and isn't kind of relevant to what you're actually doing, you will receive naturally more messages that aren't relevant to you. So, I mean, I always like the approach of in your bio, maybe just kind of highlighting, this is essentially my tech stack. This is what I work with. This is what I'm strong with. This is what I want to work with. As much information as you can give. And like I said, not everyone has the time to do that, but it's kind of to avoid maybe the abundance of messages you might get that aren't relevant. These kind of things could help, is just kind of highlighting what it is you're looking for. Like we see some profiles that say not open to contracting, working with this, and then you can contact them off the back of that, and they either reply or they don't. But yeah, that's kind of a tip I would give. Definitely is kind of showcasing what you're actually using rather than what you have used in the past.
Yeah, I think that might be over the perspective. I can say with the perspective of the candidate, sometimes it can be annoying. But the main point, I believe, sometimes it's annoying is because when you get a lot of people on your networking. So, for example, on my connections, I have more than 5,000 connections on LinkedIn. So sometimes you're gonna be easily be reached by other companies, So then what happens is sometimes people just read your profile, see like some skills. My profile that has a lot of skills, but then there is like I work with Java for 6 months, but then they wanted you to fill a role, apply for a position that's actually asked for a senior role in Java. And sometimes I think that's just mismatching communication that we can actually going to be failing, I believe, not just on a recruitment perspective, but a candidate perspective as well. Because sometimes there's some candidates they're desperate for a job, and they like put everything that they put their knowledge on top, and then they're going to be reaching out by a lot of company. And then that's why I asked if it was frustrating for you guys, because sometimes you can actually match with someone on LinkedIn and then say, oh, okay, this person has all this technology, and you call them and actually, oh, this person wasn't very skillful on that. And then sometimes that is miscommunication between like what the recruiter wants and what the candidate puts on LinkedIn.
Yeah, I think for us,